in your cocoons of comfort, in this government's cocoons of comfort, they have lost touch with reality. They have lost touch with reality. I turn to the third weakness in this economy. The very high debt that we face as a country. Every economist, every credible economist in this country and in this region and beyond this region is warning this government on a weekly basis against incurring debt repeatedly. Every time an overseas trip returns, we have glad tidings of more foreign exchange that we have not earned. We have begged for it. And that is a weakness in this economy. And government has failed to heed the warnings of the good economists who have told this government repeatedly, stop borrowing so much money. And the government continues to borrow the money. And where is it going? Like a nest egg, like a warm bird sitting on his egg, waiting for the hatchling. That money is not going into any productive area. That money is awaiting the next loan that is to be repaid. That is where we've reached in this country. That is where these gurus have taken us in this country. That we are borrowing to repay. That is where we are. And we are told that government, if this situation is allowed to continue without sustained improvement in foreign exchange generating sectors, it will place heavy constraints on the country's prospects for social and economic development. Where is that money going? We are sitting like warm birds on a wet night in a good nest, just awaiting the next loan repayment. No productive activity. Let me go to the fourth weakness in this economy that is so abuzz with activity. The private sector is now reluctant to invest in this economy. That's why the Honorable Prime Minister went down to Hayman's, rejoicing at the opening of a retail plant. A moment for celebration. A little retail plant opens in Hayman's, and the prestigious presence of a Prime Minister blesses it. What an impressive event. What an impressive event. And what do malls do? I don't think the things that are sold there generally in malls are manufactured here. They're imported. That is why I said a few minutes ago, why is this government so afraid of the land, the mud? Is it too dirty for this clean and happy government? Diversify. That's the message to this government over and over. Diversify. Diversify in the direction of the honorable member for St. Philip West. South he is. South. South. Much is on his shoulders as well. And I'm going to come to his ministry very shortly. And I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. On behalf of the farmers of this country, I am going to tell the truth. But you know, Hayman's is celebrated as some major national achievement. during the estimates, the calling programs, the government probably feels they're nobodies. I don't. They are a relevant voice in national discourse. And it would say that it seemed that the opening of a small retail operation ranked with priority over the estimates that were laid in this parliament, the people's money. So Haman's must have been very important. Very important. But while we were celebrating Haman's, the door to investment was slammed shut in the faces of 26 men. I don't talk race. I don't talk race. And I don't talk race because there's a small group of people in this country who talk it. They didn't live it. For them, it is an academic pursuit. And I know they're not sincere on it. And I talk race at risk that I may be associated with that insincerity. So I don't talk race. I talk justice. And the symbolic figure of justice, the lady who holds the scale, she is blindfolded. She doesn't see race. So I'm not talking race, Your Honor. Through you to the Honorable Prime Minister, I don't talk race. And I do not accept that the Prime Minister's journey to Haman's had anything with ranking racial identity. But I do think it was a journey that failed to recognize the rights of 26 men and women. Were there any women among them? I'm not sure. According to reports, they mortgaged their houses. Mortgaged their houses. Let the consciences be disrupted. I can hear the honorable member for St. Thomas. And if it pains, take the pain. Take the pain of truth. Why was Haman so important? And those men who want to do a little road paving, their interests don't rank with equal importance. I don't talk race. I talk justice. And justice is blind. And she is impartial. And she applies justice without regard to wealth or power or any social status that may be ascribed. We call on this government to do business not only with Haman's, but to do business with anyone, whether cherry, gooseberry, or dunk. I'm hearing the Honorable Deputy Speaker. I don't know if she wishes to take your position, sir. Besides, I have Rule 33 for you, you know. I have Rule 33 for her.
I remember, as an attorney, you know, the concept of experiencing and judicial deafness.
Judicial deafness.
Yes, sir. So you can do that.
Oh, I see, sir. All right.
Display judicial deafness.
Yes, yes.
I continue.
Just rein her in a little bit, though. I must say I enjoy it more when she's there. Okay, keep me alert. I want to remind this government, and I know the Prime Minister is desperate to attract investment. The Prime Minister was all over the world looking for foreign investment, not found. And so wisely, the Honorable Prime Minister comes back to Barbados and celebrates Haman's. And we have kindly and gently invited her to celebrate some road works. By some people who deserve it. By some people who deserve a chance. If the MTW owes the people money, pay the people the money or use the money as mobilization. Don't dismiss people and say, well, them ain't got no mobilization. Who them is? Who them think them is? Look, Your Honor, this economy is in trouble, and I am going to give 15 features of this economy that function as a disincentive against local investment. And so when you have men who are willing to invest, the government is morally and politically obligated and socially obligated to assist them. But here are the features that act as a disincentive to investment. Excessive debt. This is an economy that is weighted under by excessive debt. High taxes, 2. 3, austere economic measures. 4, high costs. 5, inflation, high inflation. 6, rampant crime, and that is, I say rampant crime, that will silence the Attorney General who was interrupting me. DLP, you can be silent now. Deal with the crime. Deal with the crime, Mr. Honorable Member for St. Joseph. Because crime, the crime that is afflicting this country, is a disincentive against local and foreign investment. Where are you in relation to that problem? I can come to that very shortly. Significant poverty. Number 7. 8, slow-paced digitization. Slow-paced digitization. I know he's been transferred in recent times. A demoralized public service, and I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to deal with the demoralized public service. Slow business facilitation, and the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday acknowledged the problem. And there's some new bureau to be set up. I wish them well, but I have faith in my public service. And I resist this government in its efforts that are aimed, well, I shouldn't say that are aimed, that are resulting in a demoralized public service. This PPP phenomenon, it hasn't been working very well. And I will come to that. I will come to one of the major disasters of this PPP enterprise very shortly. But let me move on. Poor roads and infrastructure. Another disincentive against local investment. Poor roads and infrastructure. We are waiting for the rains, Honorable Member, through you, sir. St. Michael Southeast. I am praying, you and I are praying about these rains. And we hope that they don't wash off the tar you put on Thornberry Hill. Heard that you and the Prime, beg your pardon, sir, heard that the Honorable Member for St. Michael Southeast toured, just yesterday it was admitted, toured Thornberry Hill to look at the tar. Of course, I believe the Honorable Prime Minister was up there doing something else. But she may not be aware that only the right side going up is my side. So the campaign that she was doing up there, if she was on the left side, you continue. Continue, Honorable Prime Minister. More time than me. This one is interesting. A disincentive against investment, marginalized churches and NGOs. Now, I heard something in here last night And I experienced something in here last night. I heard the end of the Prime Minister's speech. And Your Honor, it did not make me happy. But I want to say that marginalized churches become a disincentive against local investment. And number 13, the unlucky number, corruption. That's the unlucky number. And this is an unlucky country because the stench of corruption is now wafting across the corridors of power in this country. I bring that news to this government. I bring that news, Mr. Speaker, to this government. And if this government is not aware of the public perception, if this government's self-perception is one that is to say we are angels, the public doesn't think so. The public really does not think that. I will move to 14. Eroded democratic traditions become a disincentive against local and or foreign investment. And I've said it before, number 15, slow-paced economic diversification. Through you, Your Honor, Prime Minister, this place is not a buzz. This place is running aground. There's inactivity. People are afraid even to leave home at night. Because your Attorney General finds himself unable to exercise any creative thought towards resolving the issue of crime. And don't tell me it is universal. If you tell me it is universal, is that a reason to do nothing? What logic does that become? Every country has salt. You don't eat salt to death. You deal with the problem that is local. You don't ignore it and tell people in Barbados, oh, every country has crime. So what you want me to do? I want you to deal with it. Honorable Member for St. Joseph, through you, sir. Deal with it. I come to number 5 of the weaknesses in this economy. The high trade deficit. Now, there are a lot of ministers, I don't quite know who is the Minister of Trade. I honestly don't know. Let him get it. But the fact is, Your Honor, we import too much. We import too much. We really import too much. And we need to export more. The trade deficit has increased from Barbados' $2.965 billion in 2013 to $3.798 billion in 2022. And that is not a partisan statement. That is a statement of economic fact. That our trade deficit is widening. We are not producing and exporting enough. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Why is this government so afraid of the dirt? The land is there for agriculture. And the landscape of the mine is there for creative effort. Or musicians, or writers, or dancers. Do they not feel that they have this government's support in the creative industries? I come to number 6 quickly. Another weakness in the Barbadian economy is the low labor force participation rates, especially among females. You know, I have a great respect for economists. A man who chooses to become an economist is basically choosing a life of public service. Chances are he will not become wealthy. He will live a good life, but he isn't going to become wealthy. And it is the acquisition of wealth that motivates a lot of people. And I love to engage academic discourse with economists. And I like it when economists explain the workings of an economy. I'm speaking of the good ones, of course. And they tell us that among women, those who actively seek to be involved in the world of work, 58%, only 58%. And among men, 68%. And you know, an academic pursuit becomes so exciting. So I can understand why economists sacrifice wealth for the excitement that their work brings to them. They're involved in public service and they're resolving problems, not for their own sake, but for the sake of a society. And I bow to the economists in this country whose work is helping to shape this society into a prosperous place. I bow to them. What they also tell me is about a striking finding in a study that revealed a sharp decline in the labor force participation, and the government needs to note this if they don't know it. That between the second and the last quarter of 2022, we lost 6,300 persons over that 6-month period from the world of work. Now, I've asked the government to pay some attention to that. And I suspect, Honorable Mr. Speaker, that may have had to do with retirements from the public service. And I say this in the hearing of the Honorable Prime Minister. I'm not blaming the others. I come in at the Prime Minister today. That our public service has had too many early retirements. And in a tragic case, death. I sat next to that gentleman in third form at Harrison College. Stood up at his funeral a few months ago. Died. I spare thought for Philip Tudor, the former Chief Technical Officer. Died. Gone too soon, too soon, too soon. Our banner draped for you, I would prefer the banner in the wind, not bound so tightly in a scarlet fold, Martin Carter. Death must not find us thinking that we die. So let all the work that Philip did continue for the benefit of this country. A seventh weakness in the Barbadian economy is the presence of very liquid commercial banks enjoying huge profits. And let me pause and congratulate the Central Bank of Barbados in its efforts to control the imposition of fees on customers for a range of services. The eighth structural weakness of the Barbadian economy, we come back to this again. So when a Prime Minister comes into this Parliament every budget day, 2 years consecutively, and say, no more taxes. No moment of rejoicing. As one famous man said, if you stick me in my back with a knife and pull it out ½ inch, am I supposed to celebrate? The knife is in my back. And you pull it out a little bit and ask me to congratulate you. So when the Honorable Prime Minister comes in here in an overtaxed economy, an overtaxed regime, and says, no more taxes, am I supposed to break into applause? And the other problematic in this economy the high levels of foreign reserves that are borrowed rather than earned. Borrowed rather than earned. There is no moment for celebration when your foreign reserves are borrowed, particularly when you are borrowing them only to repay them in an economy that is stagnant, in an economy in which a government finds that it cannot employ people, but we are abuzz. We are abuzz with activity, and perhaps the Prime Minister may believe that. Said often enough, let us engage intellectually and academically. Come, let us reason together. Come, let us, in your final wrap-up, confront these issues and tell this country the truth. I want to turn from the weaknesses in this economy, and I want to examine the origins of government's economic policy. It is so interesting. It is so interesting. There's a lament among a few economists that they went around this country in 2018 informing the people of this country that a new government would engage in debt reprofiling. I'm going to make this quick. I don't wish to bore the uninterested, nor the disinterested. But please watch me and not him. But this country was told that we would be reprofiling. Mr. Speaker, a few days after the election, even before a new cabinet was sworn in, the government was meeting with who I don't know, but there was no cabinet, and restructuring, debt restructuring. Now, they're two clean different things. Reprofiling is gentle. The government, let me say to Barbados, the government defaulted. The government defaulted on its debt for the first time in the history of this country. What is the laughter about? You didn't know that, Mr. AG? Through you, sir? Yes, yes, yes. I'm telling the people of Barbados, and you don't want them to hear that for the first time in the history of this country, you can joke as much as you want. You can joke as much as you want. If you choose to be a buffoon, fine. For the first time in the history of this country, no, I said if he chooses to be, I'm not saying he is. But that's not the major point I'm making. Not the question of default. Here's what happened. And I said this in here a few weeks ago, and one honorable member, he went into an eruption. He erupted when I said, and I will repeat today, that a company called White Oak was hired by this government. I don't know if it was done by the cabinet, but this government, whoever constituted the government, one of the French monarchs said that he is the state. L'État, c'est moi. I am the state. So whoever was the state when White Oak came, and come they did. The late Owen Arthur said, the late Owen Arthur, esteemed departed Prime Minister, said that he, the Right Honorable, I thank you, member for St. Thomas, thank her, yes sir. He said that he could have done the debt restructuring for free. He said that.